Okay, the soul. Basically, I find all your arguments concerning the soul to be little more than naked assertions. Basically saying this is the case, and then not backing it up. You did make some attempts to back them up, but to my mind they were very weak attempts. An appeal to authority with regard to Mr. Eccles, or Dr. Eccles. The problem with that is that Eccles himself was a Catholic, and basically when he said the thing about the ghost in the machine, it can very easily be seen as him making a religious claim, not a scientific claim. He did not back that up with science. He's making a religious claim to basically, how can I put this? Well, to make his religion and science fit together better. Let's see, and also you'd probably be hard-pressed to find many other neurobiologists who would agree with Mr. Eccles, and he actually shared the Nobel Prize with a guy named Huxley and a guy named Hodgkins, and I seriously doubt any of them, or either of them, would have supported that proposition. I don't think either one is alive to ask them, but I don't think either of those two were particularly religious. I might be mistaken about that, though. But the fact remains that few neurobiologists would agree with Eccles on that point, and that's because he was not making a scientific point, but a religious point. Okay, another attempt you made to back it up was the hidden observer thing and the E equals mc squared thing. First of all, I don't think the hidden observer has anything to do with quantum physics. I'd never heard of the hidden observer prior to hearing it in your video, and I looked it up, and all I could find were sites about hypnosis and psychology. So it has nothing to do with quantum physics, really. You might have been talking about the observer effect, but I don't see what that has to do with the claims about the soul. The observer effect has to do with the movement of very small particles, and that's pretty much it. Very small particles or waves, because there's that particle-wave duality stuff going on. And like you, quantum physics and quantum mechanics make very little sense to anybody, including the people that study them. They just operate based on these precepts, and when they check these out in the real world, sure enough, their models seem to hold. It doesn't make any sense, but the models work. It's one of those things. Ditto for the Einsteinian stuff, which is ridiculously hard to understand, having to deal with dimensions that we're not witnessing head on. And the E equals mc squared thing didn't make much sense to me either. The soul is E equals mc squared. Actually, I don't think E equals mc squared had anything to do with that. In some respects, people have referred to Einstein as a theist, but it's certainly not your type of theist. It's very much a naturalistic kind of position that defines God as this set of naturalistic principles, as far as I'm aware. Also, regarding the quantum physics thing and so on, I think that's a pretty bad approach to take in general. A lot of people do this. They generalize quantum mechanical observations or models to mental activity, which it's not even intended to apply to. It's so far off from having anything to do with mental activity. It has to do with mechanics, with the movement of things, and in particular very small particles. Okay. And also the third thing you used to back it up, I think, is asking about why, even though the chemicals are moving at one point, and then they're not moving, and that's death, and the chemicals should keep moving, and if it weren't for a soul, or if it were a purely physicalistic set of circumstances, they would keep moving. I just don't see that. Why should a car keep moving why should a car stop working when it has plenty of gas in the tank? Well, it's because the parts wear down, just as our bodies wear down and have what you could call mechanical malfunctions, and that goes for the brain as well. But generally speaking, when people die, it's the result of either disease or age. Simply as with the car, the parts wear down. Their heart wears down. Their brains wear down. That happens too. Brain cells wear down. There's no reason to say that without a soul things should continue indefinitely. Anyway, I appreciate your clarifying the thing about animals, but still it doesn't answer the core of my question, because you've still asserted a difference between the mover of the animal's brain and the mover of the human's brain, and that one is eternal and one is not. And you haven't shown me any evidence for that. You've shown me scripture, but you haven't shown me any evidence for that, or that it's even something that actually exists with regard to the spirit. Let's see. The feeling of immortality, I don't know about that. I don't personally feel that I'm immortal. I mean, the closest I could come to that, I suppose, is that probably like everybody, I have a hard time understanding the concept of death. But there's a perfectly good explanation for that. And that is that, well, I'm a living thing. The whole fact of my consciousness is a product of the fact that I am a living thing. I can't really say anything meaningful anyway about my consciousness before I was born. And in the same way, I can't really say anything meaningful about my consciousness or anything about the things in this world that I value and so on with regard to myself after I'm dead. So I don't understand this, how a feeling of immortality is a necessary, how it necessarily follows. If anything, the idea of immortality, considering the idea of immortality, gave me a lot of unease before, when I considered myself a Christian. When I was I remember as a kid always running up to my mom and being extremely worried about death. And when I kind of came to the conclusion that all these ideas about death are wishful thinking to begin with, a lot of those fears subsided. Maybe every once in a while I'll feel it, but then I just tell myself, well, I mean, when you're dead, you're not really going to be caring about death, are you? And for me, that's enough. For me, abandoning the idea of a spirit was greatly emotionally fulfilling. And I really can't think of myself as immortal. I mean, in a sense, I think of what I have planned for next week, and I can move that on to the future. But these are all tentative things. I mean, I can make plans for what I would do if I won $1 million somehow, or ran into $1 million, earned $1 million. I don't see that happening, but I don't see any of those things happening. But assuming them to be the case, I can make plans. And likewise, I can make plans going well into the future, but that doesn't mean that those plans will be fulfilled, and it doesn't come from a feeling of immortality. Anyway, I don't know how long this video is. I'm going to call it quits now. Basically, to sum up, I still think a lot of what you said is special pleading and naked assertions. Just saying this is the case, this is how the soul operates, this is what the soul is, and not backing it up. Thank you.